My boy Sid's out here playing the biggest CHUUNI imaginable, not seeing that people aren't playing alongside him, but rather they believe the bullshit that he's coming up with his fantasies, and being in an isekai world with magic, sabotage, big bad villains. His CHUUNI fantasy that episode 1 showed us how he was basically living that and just trying to throw himself into the thick of these wild things that could occur, but unfortunately was basically held down by a lack of magic, and imagination can only take you so far. And to see the fact that throughout this episode, and you know this is going to be the main thing that this show uses, is that he's going to say something, either he just thinks to himself, oh, I'm playing up the CHUUNI role, or he's going to say something or do something accidentally, and his followers, his Shadow Garden clan here, his little group of ninja assassins, are gonna believe it, and it's gonna work out. And that's gonna be the main thing that's gonna be funny and the main hook. But to me, I could watch dozens of episodes with that type of formula. And to see what they did with episode 2, a very different episode than the first. Last week, took content that happens much later in the light novels and used it as an introduction. And I think it works really well because while I would have got a kick out of this episode had this been the episode 1, to already have a connection to who he was as a person, the what the hell am I watching mentality all throughout episode 1, to also see just how it wasn't like he was just that normal CHUUNI who more or less, pretends that he's some big bad and can do some crazy things. Rather, he basically was kicking ass, he was taking names, and he was killing fools. Like, he was the effective CHUUNI. He wasn't someone who was playing make-believe and had nothing to show for it. He was playing make-believe while having things to show for it. And the fact that he gets reborn into a new world, you just have a much more interesting connection to him starting his new life that will be the focus of this world. And I love the comedy bits of him as a baby not knowing, like, what the hell's going on here? Oh shit, I accidentally pooped, so I guess I gotta cry now, right? But to see how, I love it because he's someone who wants to be that shadow. He wants to be someone who lingers in the shadow, people think's ordinary or underdeveloped, so in swordplay sessions, he always loses. But at nighttime, he goes and kills bandits. And it's just such a great recipe for success that it's hard not to already say it's isekai gold. I love comedies, I love parodies, and I love the fact that for Sid, from his point of view, you can look at the story as a parody and a comedy. That really is how you can view it. But every single character around him will view this as a very serious political sabotage story. And that is an amazing premise, I have to say. And the fact that there's so many moments throughout this episode where he literally has no damn idea what he's doing, but people are like, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. And the fact that it's not even just like, oh, they believe him at face value, and even when things don't happen the way it should, he still gets believed. Instead, he can throw a dagger and miss the spot he was aiming for, and they'll say, oh, was this actually, a secret message? And they'll still go to that place, and it'll actually be the real location. He'll come up with this big bad that the world has, and, when Alpha gets saved here, he's basically making up an entire story, his whole CHUUNI mindset, and she believes him so serious that it turns out to be true, and she recruits people under that disguise of a story, and he ends up with an entire group of beauties who are fighting for him. This is an absolute banger of an isekai, I have to admit, and it's hard to imagine what the show would be after its first episode because it immediately lets an entire episode be his original world that's so confusing, so disorienting, not knowing why the hell is this main character hiding in the shadows, but it gets you so accustomed to his mindset. So when the true first episode of his life kicks off, as we see here, we already know what to expect, and it lets us appreciate the insanity bullshit even more. And it is so great that it's not one of those shows where he's faking being a CHUUNI, and people don't take him serious, or they do take him serious, but nothing actually turns out true. Instead, all of his wild delusions are coming true because he's playing the CHUUNI role so well, and even if he doesn't maybe comprehend that maybe they're not always playing along with him, the fact that things falling into success, right? It's all according to plan, and I love those types of anime, and not having an overlord in this season, I think this is definitely going to fill the void that it left, given that I love the kind of, people just assuming things work out, but this time he's now a CHUUNI, and it's such a great premise. The thing that was actually surprising was how bloody it turned out to be. Not to say, the first episode wasn't bloody, But you never know, right? Because first episode could just be there to get you hooked into something, and maybe it wouldn't turn out to be quite as gory as maybe future episodes would be. But this dude was cutting off heads, he was slashing arms off, and he was smiling with a grin on his face. I remember there was a comment last week in my comment section, and it was saying something like, you know, in a lot of ways, if you basically didn't look at the people that he was hunting as evil characters, it would be very easy to look at what he does as a complete and utter psychopath. And I can kind of see where they're coming from, because had this not been a bandit or anything, like, just seeing like how much of a grin he has on his face, this is the most insane CHUUNI I think I've seen in anime, and I already love him. I think he's such a memorable character, and I love the fact that, you know, they end the episode in a way that they're just like, okay, now we have to go, assuming that he understands because this is all according to his plan. And he's just sitting there like, what? I love the fact also how he basically ends up getting lost during the middle of this big fight, and they just assume like, oh, this is all according to his plan. The big bad of this battle comes in and he ends up fighting him. It's just, I love the fact that it's just falling into success, but CHUUNI edition, and how can you not love that? Like, I think the presentation style is absolutely a banger. I like the fact that they went very different with how episode 1 was stylized compared to episode 2. Episode 1 had this very unique kind of fishbowl experience of not knowing exactly how large this world was going to be and really what we were looking at any particular moment. But I find myself looking at the second episode, it definitely feels fantasy, it definitely feels isekai, but there's something about the wardrobes, the movement, and it just feels even more refined than the first episode, which generally the first episode feels the most refined, and then extra episodes down the line, the production starts to dip. But it's almost like the first episode was meant to be a bait, was meant to, you know, get you accustomed to Sid, but make you say, what am I actually watching? And then episode 2 comes in swinging saying, damn, this shit is fine, this shit is polished. And as someone who loves isekai, who loves fantasy, and loves comedy, the fact that you have a main character who literally is looking at this ship, dead CHUUNI, dead, just comedy serious in a way, and how he's just trying to make his own little story, his own grand little playtime now that he has magic in this world, and everyone else is going to view this shit as dead serious, and the fact that these fantasies are going to come true. How do you not have a grin on your face watching something as insane as this and say, this is one of my favorite shows as airing this season, I have to admit. Episode 1 had me interested, episode 1 had me saying, I need to see where they go, but it's hard to really put into words exactly, do I love it, am I just more interested in it? But this episode makes me say, goddamn, do I love and need more, and I'm so happy that it's going to be 20 episodes, because already, this is the type of episode that says, man, fingers crossed we get a season 2, because 12 episodes isn't going to be enough. But the fact that we're getting a back-to-back 2-core of this gem, and the fact that it seems to have a passionate fan base, I think it's going to be a very fun watch here. Very, very solid. The characters are all fun in their own unique and quirky ways, and the fact that this man is doing the one thing CHUUNI's always dreamed of, I mean, it's hard not to have a grin on your face leaving its second episode. But thoughts and feelings and theories, if you got any on where the hell we're going from here, do let me know. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here. Until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.